Okay, I see that we're live and in person. Welcome to another afternoon edition of Live with Real Appointments and me. so it is what, 2:30 p.m. Pacific time here on the west coast of the world, and in Vegas. We're not quite west coast, although we consider ourselves kind of west coast. Maybe if the San Andreas Fault ever fails, we will be West Coast. Anyway, as I digress, I'd like to get with our program. We're going to be talking about messaging today. But before we do, let me introduce Ronan Rahaman, my co-host. There you are.
Hey, Brian.
Hi.
All right. Messaging, huh?
That's what we're talking about today. Connecting and messaging. And also that I am not drinking out of a vase. This is actually
it's a glass.
It's a glass.
That can double as a vase.
Okay. Well, for maybe, yeah. But it is actually a drinking glass.
That's interesting. All right. Well, here, I want to just remind everybody that we are live. So as you pop on, you can leave questions, comments down below. Here's a slight reminder in the crawl down there. And look forward to hearing about messaging. It's
awesome.
It's super important because it's the crux of what we do.
It is. And it's Wednesday. So right in the center of the week. So let's get into the content here. So a lot of people struggle with messaging people, especially people they don't know on social media and especially on LinkedIn. If you use LinkedIn, you, like me, have probably experienced incoming messages from people that they don't sit well. They don't feel right. Maybe they're overly salesy, maybe over presumptuous, and just, kind of odd. And so we don't want that. We want to be helpful to people. We want to be respected by the people who we message, because ultimately we're wanting to have a connection. We want to have a conversation with them off of LinkedIn and potentially engage in business together. So today I'm going to show you some specific messages that we use and how we use them and when we use them and what have you. And hopefully this will be helpful that you can incorporate into your own messaging strategy when it comes to messaging people who you may already be connected with, and also people who you are newly connected with or wanting to connect with. So with that, let's go over and I'm going to share my screen, or Ronan's going to share my screen. And this is a little excerpt from a deeper dive course that we host from time to time called Guaranteed Sales Appointments. If you're interested in learning more about that and attending one of our next Guaranteed Sales Appointments events, simply just fill out the form at guaranteedappointmentslive.com and we will put you on our list so that we inform you as to when we're doing one again. In the meantime, let's go into messaging. And the first type of message I want to share with you is going to be a connection message where we're reaching out and connecting with somebody new. And the point that I want you to, or something I want you to write down and remember when it comes to pretty much all of your messaging, is to make it all about them, make it all about the other person. And don't be selfish, right? Oftentimes we see messages or read messages that it's clearly, they're not really taking any care or concern about me or you. They're all about them. And you want to make it all about them, meaning the other person. Okay, so don't make it all about you. So the way we do that is, there's a couple ways we do that. When we are reaching out to somebody new, as is the example I'm showing you here, where we are reaching out to someone named Simon on behalf of our client, Joe Kennemore. It's a simple request to connect. And it reads, Simon, I hope you are doing well. Let's connect here on LinkedIn. Signed, Joe. And you don't really need to be more detailed than that, especially if you've done all the other work that we talked about yesterday on your LinkedIn profile. If you weren't here with us yesterday and you want to learn about all that, just go watch the live we did yesterday at the same time. I think it was 2:30 afternoon Pacific time. Because once you've done all that work, when you send out a connection request, all the good stuff goes along with it, your headline, your photo, and things like that. So the people that you're connecting with are going to know immediately whether they want to accept that connection. So you don't really need to go into any more detail than that. And certainly don't do the silly stuff that I see all the time, like, oh, you came up in my as one of my recommended friends, or I was browsing around LinkedIn the other day and you came up in search results. That just, people don't believe it, usually because it's not true, and it's just weird. So don't do that. And if you see a lot of messages coming in that way, that maybe they took a course or something like that, or maybe they, someone told them to say that over and over and over again. So we just keep it simple. The other thing we do is we usually use the person's name in the message. So here you can see that we use the name Simon, and we also want to use the word you, because every time you use the word you are inherently making your message about the other person. So that's just some depth on a very simple message, but I wanted you to understand the reason why we do what we do here. Okay. The next thing I want to share with you is, once you've connected with somebody, some ways that you can also continue to make the message about them and not look like, you're just after to sell them something. So here's a message that Ronan sent to John, who was at this time a recent new connection for Ronan. And the message simply reads, "Hi, John." Again, we're using his name. "Thanks for connecting. I hope all is well with you." There's that "you" word again. "And business is good at Allegiance," the company that John works for. So again, it's just a simple acknowledgement of the acceptance of a connection request. And again, making it all about the other person by using their name, by using the word "you," and by using the name of, in this case, John's company. So real simple strategy, works really well, and it puts you in a professional position with the people that you're connecting with. So now, how do you take it to the next step, right? How do you start engaging in conversation with people that you're wanting to have appointments with in this case? So we like to use non-salesy messages. We keep them short, and we still keep them about the other person or something that might be of interest to them. I'm going to show you a few examples of these types of messages. The first is something that we've been using that is not only about the other person, it also acknowledges the current crisis that we are all weathering together, if you will. And I'll read just the first part of it. It says, "Hello," and the person's first name. "First and foremost, I hope you and your family are holding up well during these uncertain and challenging times. Although we are in the same storm together, many of us are riding through it in different boats and achieving different results." And we go on at the end of this to make a simple request to say, "Hey, if you'd like to have a chat or a conversation together to see what that might look like, let me know. All my best," and signed from, in this case, Don, one of our other clients, but you would sign it your own name. So again, it's a short, friendly, non-salesy message, being concerned, if you will, about the other person. And this actually gets a really good response from people. So, and starts that conversation, if you will. Another strategy that I'll share before we end this particular short training is to use third-party relevant content. And what we mean by that is content that you did not write yourself, content that you research and find that would be of value and potentially of interest to the other person. So, let's say you're reaching out to people who are CPAs, chief financial office, CPAs, accountants and things like that. You would find information that might relate to them. It's like, for example, we're coming up on a new tax deadline right now. July 15th is the extended, date for taxes this year. So maybe there's something out there that might be of interest to them while they're busting tail to get all their taxes done, right? So you would find this by searching on Google is a good place to go. And basically, I'll show you how that works, going back to this messaging sequence that Ronan had with John. So John happens to be in the IT world. And so Ronan found this article on Forbes that looks like it could have been of interest to John. And he simply takes the URL of the article, pastes it into a short message, and asking John for his opinion about it, basically. Real simple, all about something John might be interested in. Here's another example Ronan followed up with is a different article from a different source, again to John, and again, something that might be of value. And he asks John, again, a question, how are you going after these technology dollars? And what happened in this particular case, and happens often, is John responded because he's now seeing all these messages showing up in his thread about how Ronan's being cool. He's not being salesy or pushy. He's just trying to add some value. And John responded thanking Ronan for sending the messages and also asking if Ronan would like to have a call. So it worked out really well. And this is a strategy that you can use for a lot of different kinds of people that you might want to connect with. What would happen after this, 'cause I will share this, is if, let's say, you get either no response from doing this, or you get a response like this, you want to take advantage of getting on a call with the people you're connecting with, or maybe in your next message, simply asking if they'd like to have a quick call, or using that other message that we showed you, make it your own. You can take a screenshot of this if you want, where you're just acknowledging the challenging times that we're all going through and asking if they'd like to have a chat. And you will oftentimes get a response to that. So just a couple of different strategies here that I wanted to share with you to get your mind thinking about the kinds of messages that you might want to send. I encourage you to come up with your own, but keep in mind this one very important concept, making it all about them, the other person. So with that, I'm going to come back to full screen here, and there's Ronan. Hello.
Hey.
And
yeah,
that was it. So I wanted to share some tips and tricks for people. Anything you'd like to add to this conversation?
Well, I'm never at a loss for words. And I'm speaking now from actual experience. I just got done, before we did this live, I was working on some profiles, and you see a lot of, hey, we share a lot of the same connections. And, when you kind of see that over and over again, it's like, really?
Yeah.
That's the level of creativity that you have. But, it just lands flat, and
Correct.
it's not inspiring to people. It just sounds so cliche that people are like, yeah, okay, I get it. So that the value adding part is amazing when people message back and say, thank you, that was really useful. I've had people, when we've sent them articles, write, whole dissertations about how they felt about the article. Like they
Right.
really read the article and had something to say about it. So, that is what builds relationship. Not, hey, I've got something to sell you. Do you want to talk?
Right.
Yeah. So that's just my take from the trenches.
Yep. And this strategy is just one of many that we utilize. Obviously, if you're dealing with a different type of market, you may want to change it up a bit. And if you have any specific questions about your market and the people that you're reaching out to, feel free to reach out and ask us. We'll help give you some guidance on that as well. So with that, that's all we have for today. Tomorrow, we will be back live with the fourth segment of this week's training series. And we're going to talk about and demonstrate how to find people to reach out to on LinkedIn using both LinkedIn search as well as LinkedIn's tool Sales Navigator. So if you're interested in learning about some tips and tricks on finding people to reach out to, tomorrow's call is the one to be on.
Awesome. See you tomorrow, Brian.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.